What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? We are so excited here today as we are doing our NC State versus Miami preview. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done a preview, as I know that the biggest focus has been beyond just what our opponent is giving us, more of what's going on with NC State. And but now, finally, coming off of a huge win over Clemson, we are back here once again with Coop, who is, in my opinion, the premier Miami media channel to check out. If you haven't checked out his stuff on YouTube, make sure to go and do it, man. As I know for myself, I've been a huge follower and definitely have gotten a lot of inspiration with what you see on Tuffy Talk. Came from this guy right here that you're seeing on the screen wearing all that Miami stuff, man. And Coop, first and foremost, man, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate y'all. And this is no shade, but this is my first face-to-face, I guess, through the internet interaction with NC State fans. I've never met one in person. I've never had a one-on-one with NC State fans. It's no shade. I'm being serious. So this is pretty awesome.
There's only 3 of us, but we do exist. Yeah. So.
Yeah, man. So, in Coop, so first question, which I want to ask. So I've always wanted to ask you this. So what is the 5 on your helmet? What is the or sorry,
yeah,
helmet on your hat? Sorry.
Jeez. I get asked about that a lot. Yeah. It looks like a helmet, right? It's definitely far too big for my little peanut-sized head. It's kind of become my thing. But it actually represents the 5 national championships that the Miami Hurricanes have won, and the most important part here is the ... after. Again,
nice.
There will be more to come, of course, and hopefully soon.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. So Coop, just kind of a little bit of a background for maybe some State fans who don't know much about you. Tell us a little bit about your Miami fanhood. Did you go to Miami? Just grew up a diehard Miami fan? Like, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short, sweet, and to the point. It surprises a lot of people. I live in Tennessee and have grew up in Tennessee my entire life. But I wasn't really a big college football fan growing up. Nobody in my family watches sports, still don't to this day. But when I was around 12 or 13 years old, I was sitting in the living room. My mom's flipping through some channels on the TV, and it lands on the 2001 national championship game, Miami versus Nebraska. That was literally my first experience watching a college football game ever. And I was kind of like the nerdy, geeky, dorky kid in school. Didn't have a whole lot of friends, and I wanted to be cool, So I watched those guys on the field, like doing their thing. And I was like, I want to be like those guys. So my mom lets me watch the game. I have her order me a Miami shirt that just has a big old fat U right on the front of it. And I wore that bad boy to school, and I felt like the coolest kid ever. Everybody else had on the big ugly T's, on their shirts, and I had that U. And I just kind of fell in love with the team after that, and I've followed them ever since. And the reason I started the channel was to kind of just bring Canes fans together from all across the world. Even though I don't live in Florida and I have connections down there, thankfully, it doesn't really matter in today's times through the power of the internet, right? So it's kind of an opportunity to bring everybody together so we can talk college football and Miami Hurricanes football.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
awesome, man. That's awesome. So how did your channel get started? You said you mentioned that you wanted to unite everybody, but what did that look like? What made you want to start making your own channel?
It was because I got tired of living in Tennessee and watching Miami games by myself. So then, everybody has all these parties where they get together with family, and it's like that here in Tennessee for all the Vols games, right? Like there's everybody, you go drive by their house and there's cars all in everybody's driveway. Everybody's hanging out. And here I am watching Miami games, and they score and I'm like, let's go. And there's no one around me to celebrate with me. So I was like, I want to connect with people. I want to be able to watch games together. So then I had the bright idea of why don't we just all watch the game together virtually and just react to it while we watch it. And then it kind of just went from there.
Yeah.
That's cool, awesome. That's cool. And have you converted any friends or family into Miami Hurricane fans?
Many. I'm currently working right now on my mom's boyfriend, though, because my birthday was a few weeks ago, and he bought me some Tennessee Volunteers cups for my birthday.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say she might have to break up with him. I don't know about that, but we have converted some people on my channel that were Florida State fans, that were Tennessee fans. I got a lot of family members that
Florida State fans is interesting.
Yes,
That's
and
interesting.
I've got proof. I've got video proof. So we have made it happen. Yes.
Wow. That's good, man. That's cool. So, we're talking about the NC State and Miami matchup, man. And I guess just to start off, let's just kind of take it back to just your thoughts on Miami so far this season. What how you view them, what they've got. What did the off season look like? Maybe is a good place to start as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of in the minority in my feelings when it comes to this season so far, because as you guys probably know, Miami fans always have super high expectations going into the season. I'm sure a lot of other fan bases do this as well, but it really seems like it's next level with Miami. It's this thing where we've experienced greatness, we've won national titles, and we don't want to wait any longer. We feel like it's our turn now, and it has been for many years, but it never seems to happen.
Sure.
So, we bring in a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, lots of new faces and stuff. Mario goes shopping in the transfer portal a bit, and people start to get pretty excited in the offseason. I'm a little different. I had tempered my expectations going into this season. My actual full season prediction that I put out a couple of weeks before the game started was 7-5. And that was my realistic, set the fandom and the feelings and stuff to the side. After going 5-7 last year, I kind of felt like, well, we'll get a couple of extra games. And so far, I've been pleasantly surprised, thankfully, right? I mean, we've already won 6. We're 1 away from what I had expected for the entire season, with 4 games left to go still. But Miami fans right now, and I'm sure we can dive into this here in a bit, there's kind of a QB controversy or debate going down. As far as the coaches are concerned, there's not one, but amongst the fans, there definitely is. So there's a lot of Miami fans that are at each other's throats at the moment. But overall, the team is overperforming in my eyes as far as with what my expectations were going into the season. And in my offseason prediction, I had Miami losing to NC State. But we can talk about that later on when we get to that part.
Sure.
And talking about your expectations, y'all's first loss of the season was to Georgia Tech. And we've been talking on the live stream and stuff about how Georgia Tech's kind of a weird team. They lost to Bowling Green. They lost to Boston College. And yet they beat y'all. And obviously they just beat North Carolina. So how did you feel following that Georgia Tech game, and how did you kind of adjust your expectations for the rest of the season after that?
And Coop, I got to give Lindsay a shout out as I made sure to coach her up that she didn't bring up the last minute of the game. So good job, Lindsay.
Thank you. Yes. Because if you want to see Miami fans get heated, of course, there have been so many memes and different things that have been created from that game. But at the end of the day, like, I get it. You should, you know what, Layton, I'm going to bring it up. They should have taken the knee. Of course. I mean, who does that? Honestly, who does that? And to this day, people are still wondering, there were a lot of recruits at that game. And people were trying to decide, was it, a situation where maybe they thought that they could break one off and punch it in, or just bump the stats up a little bit, because Miami did not play well in that game, period. The crazy thing with that is literally you take the knee, you win the game. Miami is in a scenario where if everything falls exactly how it still did, Miami would be 7-1 right now, with their only loss being to, at the time, a number 10 or number 12th ranked North Carolina at their place, right? So that's not too bad. One ACC loss. But given the opponent, given that it was Georgia Tech, given they had just come off of the Bowling Green loss, Miami fans went into red alert mode. Like, everything's crumbling down. And Miami is known for going on a skid historically. Usually when they drop a game, they drop 3 or 4 in a row. It's usually a mess. But thank goodness they only dropped 1 more. Now we've won 2 in a row. But that Georgia Tech game definitely did hurt. I think it shows that Miami at this point in time is still, I hate to say this, but kind of consistently inconsistent. But at the same time,
sounds familiar to NC State fans at times.
Yeah, so that's the one thing that they always seem to do. But at the same time, look at college football this season, right? Lindsay, you brought up Georgia Tech, with who now they have beaten. It's pretty crazy, right? So it's just really frustrating, because even though it would have been an ugly win, It's why I always try to remind Miami fans that I'll take an ugly win over a loss all day. Then we can spend the next week nitpicking it, but I still would have preferred to get the win, obviously.
Yep,
Sure,
we just talked about that in our live stream. NC State just beat Clemson. They were a 10-point underdog. Was it pretty? No, but we said, like we said, you'll take an ugly win over a loss. Next year,
we both beat the Tigers. Come on.
Right, exactly.
Come on. Down goes Dabo.
There we go.
Come on, we all love that.
Next year,
right?
No one's going to remember if the game was ugly. They're going to remember that you won. So that's the goal. And yeah, we both beat Clemson. So that's the dream.
Yeah, that's right.
So while we're on the subject of the coach, just I'm curious, like, because I don't know. I mean, I think I'm curious what you guys feel about what has been the rotating door of coaches at Miami a little bit lately, but then also just what your thoughts about Cristobal, because he, like you said, you mentioned the team, you feel like this season is overperforming, but yet there's some questionable things like with the Georgia Tech game. It's like you're like, is he the guy? I mean, I don't know. I'm curious what you feel about him as a coach, what the Miami fans feel about as a coach.
Yeah, like I honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of Mario Cristobal. Everybody knows his thing coming in is he's a fantastic recruiter. I mean, if the way that he turned recruiting around at Miami when he came in, especially given that Miami went 5-7. Now you can't consistently do that. There's no way. I mean, you're going to have to win some more games this season, but you know that you have recruiting no matter what with Mario. Now, I will say he is not the best game day coach. There have been some very questionable calls when it comes to clock management and some other things. And again, if you want to talk about the Georgia Tech game, again, I'm just throwing salt in the wound, but even if our offensive coordinator Dawson is the one who calls, let's run it, he's the head man. He should shut that down and say, hey, we got to take the knee. Let's get out of here with an ugly win. Yeah. Overall, though, I'm a really big fan of Mario Cristobal. He played at Miami. I know that he cares about the program. The guy literally doesn't sleep. He's always working. And when you talk to the recruits, I've had many conversations with recruits. They love the guy. He's always checking up on them, always staying in contact with them. But as far as with the revolving door with the coaches, at Miami, you got to win. Miami is one of those programs where you either come there to coach for a year and then you're off to bigger and better things. You come in as a position coach or coordinator and you leave to be a head coach, or you come in and you ruin your entire career. It seems to really be one or the other. And Miami fans,
boomer bust sounds like boomer bust.
Basically, yeah. And Miami fans, they want to win, and they want to win now. And if the product on the field is not very good, the attendance at the stadium reflects that. So it's a very tough job. But I think when you really look at it, Mario knew what he was getting into. He had whatever he wanted at Oregon, and he took the chance. He came back down here. He has family, in South Florida, and I know that the job means a lot to him. And I'm just going to say it. Miami fans have got to be a little more patient with him. I think that what the team is missing right now, I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Sure.
This team is missing an absolute baller at the quarterback position, a big-time vocal leader guy there, and one or two more top 10 or top 5 recruiting classes. So I think if you give Mario another couple years, I think fans will be pretty happy.
Well, let me ask this question then. Do you feel like he's going to get that? I mean, it all depends, right? But, I mean, it's your impression that where he's at, that he can do that?
As long as we continue to see some positive progress, even if it's just steps. It doesn't have to be leaps and bounds each year. But again, given what he did after a 5-7 record, if Miami can win at least 8+ games this season, I have no doubt that he can land minimum another top 10 recruiting class easily.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightland's Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flightland's Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flightland's Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flightlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
And you were talking about how you actually think this team is overperforming based on your preseason expectations.
Yeah.
Only there's 2 losses so far back-to-back against Georgia Tech and UNC. What is the overall fan morale like right now? Do fans tend to agree with you? Because you said fans like to win and they like to win now. So is fan morale good or not so much?
No. They
never good. It's never good.
I am not a fan favorite right now. My streams have been. I'm big on just being real and honest, but I try to always have kind of a positive outlook. I mean, this is my team, right? I just want to see them win, and I want to see them do well. But I don't want to sugarcoat things. And for me, when I look at this season, we hadn't beat. I know it's a down year for Clemson, right? We hadn't beat them in 13 years. That is a big deal. People are saying Texas A&M is a little overhyped. I realize that they haven't beaten some of the teams that they should have, but they played Alabama close. They played Tennessee close. We hadn't beaten an SEC team in a decade. That's a big deal for us to get that win by 15 points 2 weeks into the season. So for me, Mario has a signature win or 2, however you want to slice and dice it up, in his second year. So I'm, again, pretty happy overall. We played North Carolina close. Again, we're seeing them start to crumble now. I don't really know what's going on with that. But the Georgia Tech should have been a win. There's not a whole lot to be super upset about when you factor in everything. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, we have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, literally after 1 year. He canned them after his first season. So we kind of almost pressed the reset button again slightly. So all things considered, I'm happy. But fans as a whole, I obviously can't speak for the entire fan base. But what I see on social media and on my channel is it's not enough, and it's not moving fast enough.
And you said preseason that you expected Miami to lose to State. Is that still how you're feeling? What? You said you like to keep it real. Keeping it real, what do you think's going to go down Saturday under the lights at Carter Finley?
I mean, do you want a full blown you want a win or loss prediction, or
no? Let's give it a little.
Thoughts
Real quick.
Okay,
we'll get into the meat of it in a little bit.
Okay. Miami is in a much better position going into this game than I thought they would be back in August. I'll say that.
Right. And would you say it's more from what you've seen from Miami or what you've seen from State?
It's I hate to ride the fence on this, but it's a mixture of both, and we can dive into the specifics whenever you guys want. So
yeah, that's fair.
And just to kind of start, I mean, one of the biggest things when we did our previews, talking about Miami at the beginning of the season, was talking about how talent wise, there's not probably a more talented, at least on paper, team than Miami in arguably the ACC. I mean, I think you guys are right up there with Florida State in terms of talent wise. And I mean, just to start with the offensive line, I mean, you're getting an all SEC transfer from Alabama, and then you get a stud all-star center transfer from UCF and Matt Lee. And I mean, pretty much your whole offensive line is studs all over the place. And then, we could talk about the defense and your freshman phenom at defensive end for Miami as well. So again, stars all over the place for sure. So, I mean, just, kind of tell me in terms of, would you say that a lot of what you've seen this season has been riding off of the talent and maybe not necessarily the development or the coaching putting them in the best position to win? Is that maybe more of what you're seeing so far, at least in your opinion?
I mean, partially. I think a lot of the success that we're seeing with Miami is in the trenches. Again, as you said, bringing in lots of transfers, big body guys. Historically, over the years, Miami has been small and fast, and Mario wants to be more of we're going to line it up, we're going to run it down your throat and just dominate you in the trenches at the line of scrimmage. We're seeing with a lot of the coaching staff that we've brought in now, instead of going for the big name hires, Mario went more with guys that are a little more hungry and guys that are willing to adapt and build this offense and defense around the players that we actually have instead of trying to force something, which is what we saw a lot of last year. So I think we've got some more open-minded coaches, some guys that are hungry, coaching hard, and have something to prove. And I think that kind of shows a lot.
Yeah, agreed.
And talking about these individual players and talent, this week for ACC Players of the Week, y'all had the Defensive Lineman of the Week, Defensive Back of the Week, and Specialist of the Week. How has your defense really guided this team, and how do you think they'll show out against State?
Honestly, this defense has been pretty dominant overall so far this season. I mean, we're allowing less than 100 yards rushing per game. I think it might even be less than 90. I believe it's in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. The biggest issue that Miami is running into, in my opinion, is the offense putting the defense in some pretty bad positions. You got quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, who is playing hurt and or injured, whatever you want to label it as. He's thrown 7 interceptions in 3 games, and it's put the defense in some really tough spots. And unfortunately, we're not winning the time of position battle consistently, and you're seeing the defense get pretty gassed in the second half of ball games. So you're seeing a lot of drop off from the first half to the second half. And speaking of the North Carolina game, that's something that they really took advantage of. And I think it's what cost Miami the game. Defense was on the field a lot in the first half. That third and fourth quarter rolls around. Defense is getting a little tired. Mac Brown notices it. They start to go tempo, and they just slice and dice us up with Tez Walker in that run game. So as long as we can win the time of possession battle and give our defense a breather, and we can keep those guys fresh, because we are battling some injuries on both sides of the ball, as are a lot of teams right now, right, at this point in the season. But as long as we can do that, the defense is super dominant. I mean, if NC State fans don't know the name Ruben Bain, after Saturday, you will. Trust me.
What position? Safety, right?
Edge.
Yeah, and he can kind of play inside or outside on that D line. So sometimes you'll see him shift around a bit. But then also you might be thinking of Cam Kinchins. He's kind of a baller back there at safety. James Williams, kind of the duo back there. But I will say, again, I keep getting ahead of myself. Like, I'm excited about this matchup. It's hard for me to kind of contain everything.
We're going to wrap this up then and get over to the next episode.
Yeah, okay. So maybe I should stop. I'll stop there for now, and we'll see where you guys want to take it.
Yeah, we'll pick it up in part 2, and really kind of treat part 2 as kind of a deep dive for sure. So I do want to kind of, talk about, I mean, obviously, with Miami, the only thing I'm sure that you kind of wish is that, Miami could have a better, alumni, base, I mean, just there's not really any studs in the, in the Miami alumni, so got to work on that for the future.
Sarcasm.
No. So give it to me. Between Michael Irvin, Ray Lewis, Sean Taylor, you name it, who's your all-time favorite?
All-time favorite is so easy to answer. For me, it's Devin Hester.
Wow.
Man. Have you heard that backstory about Devin Hester and NC State?
No, I haven't. No.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
Seriously. Okay, I'm going to tell you. So he was this close to committing to NC State, man.
No, I didn't know that.
He was down in Miami and NC State, and he picked NC State. I don't know the whole story there, but he ended up picking Miami. And then you guys came to Raleigh for game day in 2003, I think it was. Lee Corso's all there. He puts the NC State head on, the Mr. Wolf head on. Game time comes around. Opening kickoff.
Takes it back.
Devin Hester takes it to the house.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was like
whoosh. All they are gone.
It feels like it's been so long that we've had a guy that teams literally refuse to kick it to. Because every time you kick the ball to that guy, there was a chance he took it to the house. And some of my fondest memories of playing the NCAA football games were going up against my cousins. I would go down to their house. I would take Miami. They'd kick it to Devin Hester.
Gone.
Just take it to the house every time.
Yeah. But there's a story there. He's on record saying that if it wasn't Miami, it was State. And people know it. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Interesting. All right.
That's a fun fact there. So Devin Hester's the answer there, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, again, for me,
and then
is crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sean Taylor was Miami too, was he not?
Oh yeah. That's probably going to be what you're going to hear from 80 to 90% of people, and understandably so.
But not Michael Irvin.
Folks. Okay,
Michael Irvin is diehard. You through and through, man.
I mean, great wide receiver. Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of controversy right now with some former Miami Hurricanes players showing some love for Deion Sanders and Colorado. So that's kind of creating a divide with
Dwayne Johnson,
some fans and former players.
Dwayne Johnson things,
yeah. There's a couple. There's a few.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Lane, I got one. Is it okay if I ask one last question?
Go for it.
Okay, this is a fun question. So, one of my, I'm not a Miami fan, but I still think back to, I don't know what year it was, and you probably know, Coop. Did you see the Miami versus Duke game a few years ago where they had the return at the end of the game with all the laterals?
The laterals, yeah. Of course, yeah.
Was that one of the craziest endings to a Miami game? Maybe the craziest ending ever to a game for you guys?
I mean,
it's one of the craziest I've ever seen.
In recent memory, let's put it that way.
I think it has to be, right? I mean, they literally printed T-shirts that had the outline, like that they took, like with the hands at each spot where they like.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
so they made T-shirts over that thing. So it's got to be right now. For me personally, I got to witness the 2018 comeback against Florida State at Hard Rock Stadium. That one was pretty electric and exciting as well because I don't remember all the details off the top of my head, but Miami was down pretty bad at halftime and all hope was lost. And we had multiple turnovers and we came out there. That was under Mark Richt. And we came out there and ended up winning. But that answer kind of really doesn't count because I got to see that in person. So that made it extra special. The Duke game with the laterals, I think it's got to be.
I just think back in that game, I'm thinking like, man, that was like, that one's not, I'm curious to see if you had any like particular emotional reaction with that one. So that's all it was.
I do remember watching it. And if I'm going to be entirely honest with you, I had given up. I mean, I watch games all the way till the end. I never turn them off. I'm that fan that sits there when Miami is down 50-0 and I just watch it. I just take it. But that one, man, I thought it was over, and I was running back and forth through the house in the hallway just screaming. I was like, they did it. I can't believe it. It was so much fun.
I love it.
That's hilarious, man. Awesome.
All right, Wolfpack Nation. So we'll pause right there, and we will pick this up in part 2 here. We'll really start to take even more of a deep dive into this NC State versus Miami game here, y'all. And Coop, just for State fans, who want to be able to check out some of your content to, kind of get ready for this game here on Saturday night, 8 p.m. at Carter Finley Stadium. What's the best way for them to check out your content and follow you?
Yeah, man. If you jump on YouTube and just search Coach Coop, you'll probably see a thumbnail of me smashing things or sitting in a garbage can. That's normal, everyday stuff for me. Yep. We like to go high energy, over the top. We just like to have fun. So you're more than welcome to check out the channel if you would like. And yeah, like I said, we just like to have fun.
Amen. I love it. All right, Wolfpack Nation. And then for our side, again, if you want to make sure you do not miss out on part 2, hit that free subscribe button, y'all, and hit that notification bell so that way you're notified whenever it does go live. And also do us a big favor and hit this like button if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, y'all. We'll see y'all for part 2, and go Pack, y'all.